For this lesson, we're going to go ahead and go over adding and subtracting integers. Now, the first thing that you have to know is that in a way, positive means going to the right. So you keep on going to the right. And I'll explain what this means a little bit more later on. Now, negative, what it means is going left. Now, if you notice, on the left-hand side of the zero, we have negative numbers. And on the right-hand side of it, we have positive numbers. Now, when we have 1 plus 3, what it's basically saying is that we go ahead and start with the first one, which is 1. So we move a distance of 1. So we went ahead and covered a distance of 1. And then starting from where we ended, so in this case, we ended here, right? We ended at 1. We go ahead and now, because the next one is a 3, and it's a positive 3, that means that I have to keep on going right? Because the 3 is positive, and positive means going to the right. That means that I have to go an extra 3 steps. So 1, 2, 3. Notice that I started from where the first number left me at. So I went ahead and walked another 3 steps. So that's going to give me my final result. So this is going to be 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. And now this is pretty straightforward, but it starts getting a little bit more difficult once we introduce negative numbers. So now let's say that the positive 3 is no longer positive, but in this case it's going to be negative for number 2. So we still start with the 1, which is positive. So that means that at 0, I go ahead and move 1 to the right because 1 is positive. So I moved a distance of 1. And now starting from where I ended, which is here, so that means that I start here, am I going to go to the left or am I going to go to the right? Well, I'm going to go to the left because in this case, my 3 is negative. So I'm going to have to go 3 steps starting from where I stopped. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to stop here. So I moved a distance of 3 to the left. And this is going to give me my answer. So where did I stop? I stopped here, which is, let me make my arrow a little bit better. So stopped here, which is actually the position of negative 2. So my answer is negative 2. And now let's go ahead and do another one. Let's say that we have negative 1 plus 3. We always start with the first number because it's similar to how we read. We go from left to right. So in this case, because it's negative, it basically tells me that I have to go ahead and move to the left because negative numbers means move to the left. So I start off at 0, but instead of moving to the right one, like I did before, I go ahead and move to the left because this means that I moved negative 1. And now starting from where I left off, which is at negative 1, negative 1 is here, I go ahead and move a distance of 3. So I stop right here. I'll move 1, 2, 3. So my distance of 3 stops here, and this is going to be my answer. So the my last position is this. So what would that be? Well, this is positive 1, and this is positive 2. So my answer is 2. Now, what happens when you have subtraction? So let's go ahead and look at this example. For number 1, you have 1 minus 3. Well, another way that you could say 1 minus 3 is making it 1 plus minus 3. Because in a way, what negative means is the opposite. So this negative here is telling me that it wants the opposite of this 3. So what is the opposite of that 3? Well, that's negative 3, right? So this is the same thing as 1 plus minus 3. So let's try number 2 before we go ahead and figure out what it is. What's another way to write this? Well, remember, this means the opposite. So what's the opposite of this one? So the opposite of 4 is -4. So this is the same thing as -2 plus -4, right? So let's make that in yellow just to give some consistency. So -2 plus, and then in parentheses, -4. Now what happens here? You have -4 minus -2. Well, remember, this negative means that it wants the opposite of whatever is after it. So what's the opposite of -2? Well, the opposite of -2 is actually +2. So this is going to be -4 plus 2, right? Because the opposite of -2 is +2. So now we can go ahead and do the same thing that we did for 1, 2, and 3. So we are focusing on this 1 plus -3. So we go ahead and start at 0. Now I'm going to move a distance to the right because it's +1. And then starting from where I stopped, which is here, I go back 3 because this is negative. So 1, 2, 3. So I stop here. And that's my position. So my position is -2. My answer is -2. Now let's go to -2 plus -4. So we have to go ahead and start with my -2, which is also here. That means that I have to start at 0. And then because it's negative, I don't go to the right. I actually go to the left, right? So if I move to the left, a distance of 2, I stopped here. Oh, this is supposed to be blue. Sorry about that. So 1, 2. So that means that on my next movement, I have to start at -2. And then because this is -4, that means that I have to go to the left, right? Negative means go to the left. So I go for more. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So now what is this final position that I'm at? Well, this is, let's make this in green. This is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. This is 1, 2, and 3. Well, I actually ended my position at -6. Therefore, my answer is equal to -6. And now for my last one, I have -4 plus 2. So what do I do? Try by yourself. What do you do first? You go ahead and put a dot at 0. Ask yourself, do I move to the left or do I move to the right? Do I move to the left or do I move to the right? If you said to the left, you are correct because it's -4. Remember, negative means that I go to the left, a distance of 4 units. So I'm here now. Starting where I ended on my first turn, I look at my second number. That's +2. So am I going to go to the left or am I going to go to the right? Well, if you notice here, it says that you have to go to the right when you have a positive. So you go, starting from here, you go 2 steps to the right. So that's actually going to bring me back here at this space. And what is that equivalent to? Well, this is -1. This is -2. This is -3. So it's actually at -2. So my answer for this is -2. Now let's make a general rule. Now let's look first. It says same signs. So what happens when you have same signs? Let's first look at the 2 examples that we have here. So this one has same signs. So we have a +1 and a +3. So when they have the same signs, what do you do with the numbers? You add them and you keep the sign of the numbers. So in this case, because they're both positive, I add the numbers, which is 1 and 3, that gives me 4, and then the sign of both of them is positive, so therefore it has to be +4. Now, if you look here, let's see, this one. Yeah, so let's look at this one. So notice that here we have -2 and we have -4. So you're adding two numbers that both of them are negative. So you have to do what? What did you do with the 2 and the 4? Did you subtract them? No, right? You actually got a 6, which means that you added them. And then the sign of that 6 is actually negative because both of the numbers that you added are negative. It's basically saying something like you have 2 negative people and then you add another 4 negative people. So in total you have 6 negative people. So now the general rule is the following. Same signs, what it means is you add the numbers and keep the same sign. Now what happens when you have different signs? So that's the other cases that we have. So for example, number 2, you have +1 and you have -3. What did you do with the 1 and the 3? Did you add them? No, because that's 4. Did you subtract them? Yes, that gives you 2. Now what happens with the sign? You kept the sign of the second one, right? You kept the sign of the -3. But why is that? Do you always keep the sign of the second one? Well, we have to do a little bit more studying than that. So let's look at number 3. In this case, you got -1 plus 3 there, so we have one negative and one positive. You subtract the numbers, and then you kept the sign of the second one. Okay, it still works for this one. Let's see another one. So you have here, on number 3 on the right-hand side. So you have -4, and then you have +2. So what do? You go ahead and subtract them because they're opposite signs, right? This one's negative, and then this one's positive. So you get 2, but you did not keep the sign of the second one. You kept the sign of the -4. So the reason for this is because what? Do you remember? Yes, it's because the -4 is greater. Okay? Think about it this way. You have 4 negative people and then you have 2 positive people. So in a way, the 2 negative people and the 2 positive people cancel out, but you still have 2 negative people left. So you have more negative people than positive people. How much more? 2 more. So that's why this is negative. So for different signs, you subtract the numbers and keep the signs of the larger number. Okay, so example 1. You have 1 plus -2. First of all, do they have the same sign or different signs? Well, the 1 is positive and the -2 is negative, so they are different. So that means that my answer for this is, first of all, you have to subtract the 1 and the 2, so that's going to give you 1, and then it's going to be positive or negative. Well, it says to keep the larger number. The larger number is 2, and that's a negative, so that means that my answer is going to be -1. Now let's try number 2. Number 2, let's say that we have -4 plus 2. So in this case, do you have the same signs or different signs? You have different signs. So therefore, you must subtract. So 2 minus 4, sorry, 4 minus 2 is 2, right? And then should it be positive or negative? Well, which one's larger, 4 or 2? Well, 4 is larger, so therefore it's -2. Let's go to a third example. Let's say that you have -4 plus -3. So what is this? Are they both, this is negative and this is negative, so they're both the same sign. So what do you do with the numbers? So you go ahead and add them, right? You add the numbers, but make sure that you keep the same sign. So add the numbers, that's 7. So were they both positive? No, they were both negative, so therefore my answer is negative. So now let's try something a little bit harder. So number 4. Let's say that you have 4 minus 2. Can you apply what we have here? Well, not exactly. Not not straight away. So you have to first go ahead and change it to positive. Remember that this minus, what it means is basically the opposite. So what's the opposite of this? Well, that's a negative, right? So it's going to be 4 plus minus 2. And now you can apply the rule that we talked about. So my 4 is positive, but this is negative. So they're different signs. So because they're different signs, you subtract the numbers. So you got 2 because 4 minus 2 is 2. And then should it be positive or negative? In this case, it has to be positive because the 4 is positive. And this is it.